Working across teams is tough, but Asana helps you handle it. Asana AI can spot roadblocks and assign work to keep everything on track. That's how work gets handled. Visit us at asana.com.
If you work in university maintenance, Grainger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Grainger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, visit Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. I want to thank you all for tuning in as you do each and every week. Again, this is the 12 Kyle podcast. Check this out. On this episode, what I want to do is remix an episode that many of you may or may not have heard. First and foremost, shout out to the homie Eclectic. You guys know him, you love him, or maybe don't love him. Nonetheless, that's my boy. Eclectic recently did an episode called 80s Mall Life. And when I heard it, I was like, it threw me back into nostalgia. And I hit him up. I shot him a text. I was like, yo, I got to remix this episode because it just really took me back. Because here's the thing. If you grew up in the 80s, like me and like Eclectic, you probably spent a lot of time in the mall. And, you know, to Eclectic's credit, he really described how life was for us back in the 80s in the pre-internet days. Because, you know, now, you know, with online shopping and everything, you know, people don't really frequent the mall like they used to. But I'll get into that more a little bit later in the episode. Nonetheless, the 80s mall life was different. And I'll also include in the description box a link to Eclectic's episode, because you definitely want to check that out, right? But yeah, the malls are different. You know, right now, I can't really say malls are dying, because I'll be honest, I'm not someone that frequent malls now. I will go to a mall if I absolutely positively have to. But the days of me just spending hours upon hours in the mall are long gone. Because if we're being honest, a lot of us shop online. We shop online. Amazon is a friend for most of us. So, you know, back then it was different. You didn't have the internet. You literally had to get in a car, or in Eclectic's case, get on a bus and go to your local mall. For me, it was, I grew up in Florence, South Carolina. So there was no transportation. There was no public transportation. Although later on we did have a bus. But, you know, you had to go with your friends, or your mom had to drop you off. Shout out to the moms who dropped the kids off at the mall at like 12 o'clock and then come back and pick them up until like 6-7 hours later. Great parenting if you think about it. But yeah, malls were it was the joint back then, because one, at least for a young man like myself, particularly when I was in middle school and definitely in high school and college, the mall was where you could find girls. That's where all the cute girls were. They were hanging out at the mall. Nobody was going to the playground and stuff like that, or going to the park. Everybody was at the mall. So that was like the spot to go to. That was the go-to thing. You know, but now, you know, I don't want to say malls are dying, but it's just different now. And the reason why I say is now because, like, when you think about it, you know, it's just with the advent of technology, again, you don't have to go to the mall anymore. You don't have to physically, you know, leave your house to shop. You literally can, you know, pull up Amazon or your favorite store and shop online and just do it right there. And it's no problem. Wherein we were invested in what we were purchasing. So you literally had to get in a car and drive to Sears if you wanted to go pick up that new washer and dryer. Now you can just order one online and it'll be, you know, depending on where you order it from, it could be there at your house the next day. So it's a lot different. I mentioned in Eclectic's episode, he talked about how he got to the mall. He would take a bus and maybe sometimes 2 buses to get to the mall where he grew up in Ohio. For me, like I said, there was no bus. You had to literally get in a car and go. I remember my first trips to the mall were when I was of age. I was in middle school. My mom would take me. And I didn't start driving until I started driving at 14. I think I got my license at 15. I had my learner's permit at 14 and got my driver's license at 15. But I don't think I drove to the mall until I was like 16, maybe 17. Because, you have that little bit of time where your mom doesn't really trust you to drive distances. And the mall from my house was a good 15-minute drive. It wasn't far. In my hometown, Florence, South Carolina, there was only one mall, the Magnolia Mall, and it's still there to this day. It looks totally different now, but that was the spot. And there was one level, wasn't 2. And I remember, in our time of going to malls throughout my lifetime, I remember the first mall that I went to was that had 2 levels, was the Garden State Parkway Mall. And I think that's in Paramus, New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. Look, you can look it up. But we would go to New Jersey all the time. I have a lot of family there. As many of you know, that's where I was born, in Newark. But we would go to Newark and we would go to New Jersey for the summer. And I remember going to the Garden State Parkway Plaza, and that mall was 2 levels. And I thought that was so dope. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, there's 2 levels. And so, but my home mall, the Magnolia Mall, it was only 1 level. But yeah, my mom would take me and she would drop me off. And then once I got to when I got to driving age, I would either drive myself or I'd ride with my friends. Riding with your friends to the mall was the best thing. There was nothing better than going to the mall with your friends. We would sometimes be 4 or 5 deep in the car, and it's all the fellas. We riding in the car, riding to the mall, just going to the mall. And a lot of times when we went to the mall, we didn't have a whole bunch of money. Like, I don't ever recall. I don't think that there's ever been a time in my childhood where I went to the mall and I spent more than $70 ever, because I never had money like that. So, and I'm not saying we were poor, but we ain't had it like that. So, and when you did have money, you had to be very, I'm not going to say tight, but like I was very tight with money. So I definitely wasn't spending on the waterhead girls. That's for sure. There wasn't a lot of stuff that I wanted for, because I got what I needed. The most that I probably spent my money on was music. And I'll get to that in just a second. But yeah, I went to the Magnolia Mall in Florence, South Carolina. Now, what did we do when we got to the mall? I mean, Eclectic talked about this. I mean, again, it's a Magnolia Mall is not a big mall, but it's 1 level, but we would walk around. And I mean, like, we literally would walk from one end of the mall to the other end. And, it was, looking back on it now, the mall seemed a lot bigger than what it probably is. And as a child, it looks bigger. And then, of course, when you get to bigger malls and bigger cities, it was like, okay, this mall ain't as big as I thought it was. And you didn't even necessarily have to go to like Newark or New Jersey or someplace like that. Like in the capital of South Carolina, Columbia, we would go to the Columbia Mall. I think it was Columbia Mall. I think that's the name of the mall. But anyway, we'd go to Columbia, and go to the malls there, and like they had bigger malls. So it was like, oh wow, it was a big thing to go to Columbia and to go to the mall. We were impressed by anything as kids. That's the funny thing about it. So I really enjoyed going to the mall. Now in the Magnolia Mall, my home mall, what was there? Foot Locker. Spent a lot of time in Foot Locker, spent a lot of time looking at sneakers that I couldn't afford and had no chance of getting, namely the Air Jordan. As many of you know, I'm a huge fan of Michael Jordan, big fan of the Air Jordan shoe. Never owned a pair of Air Jordans when I was in middle school or high school. I didn't get my first pair until I was in college, and Jordan was almost out of the league by then. But yeah, it was, so you'd go into Foot Locker and you just pick up. And you know what? I got to a point where, at a certain age, I would have the salesperson that would come over. Hey, are you interested in anything? Anything I can help you with? I was like, yeah, let me see those Jordans. And I tell them my size or whatever like that. And I would try the shoes on. And I would try the Jordans on knowing damn well I couldn't afford it, or I was going to pay for them. So, but I would just try them on just to see what they look like on my feet, excuse me. And it was a smooth sneaker. And I used to do that with a lot of sneakers. I would try them on, and then when the salesman come back, hey, you want me to box these up for you? Nah, man, I'm good. I don't think I want these. I'm gonna have to come back like that. Listen, I was young. I didn't know any better. So you had Foot Locker. Another store that I used to go into all the time was a store called Spencer's. Spencer's was like a novelty store. It had all kind of weird stuff in it. Like you could go on one side of Spencer and it had like these games and like you could buy something like a whoopee cushion. Do kids know what a whoopee cushion is? Like a whoopee cushion. Because I'm sure some of you don't know what a whoopee cushion is. You could buy little novelty things like that, little funny things, the little hand buzzers where you go shake somebody's hand, and as you're shaking their hand, a buzzer will go off and sting them. Little stuff like that. So Spencer's was that type of store. I used to always go into Spencer's because Spencer's had they had a lot of posters. And the one thing that I could do in my room that a lot of kids did back in the 80s was decorate their walls with posters. So I had posters, I had pictures, I had cutouts of Sports Illustrated. I had women on my wall. As I told Jay Boog from the J Spot Network, I have still on my bedroom wall. Well, it's not there anymore, but my old bedroom wall when I was in high school, I had like several pictures of Dawn Staley, who was a crush of mine. Shout out to Dawn, head coach of the South Carolina Lady Gamecocks. I was crushing on Dawn way before like anybody knew who she was. I saw her in a magazine and she was hooping, and I just thought she was the cutest. But yeah, I had, so I would go to Spencer's and look at posters. They had a bunch of posters in there. They also had JCPenney's. Now listen, I would walk through JCPenney's, but if you're a teenager, are you really buying anything out of JCPenney's? I mean, like, if you're 15, you're not going looking at the silverware, right? You're not going looking at a dishwasher at JCPenney. They were known for, their appliances and stuff like that. Same with Sears. Now listen, the Sears catalog was something totally different. Maybe I'll need to do an episode on that, because the Sears catalog was our first, it was like our first version of the internet. It was something that you could browse and look through, and that you probably had no chance in hell of getting anything out of there. But shout out to the Sears catalog. But Sears was there as well in the mall. These Sears and JCPenney were what we call anchor stores. They were the stores that most people went into, to get their stuff or whatever like that. I don't think I ever purchased anything for myself out of Sears. Anything that we ever got out of Sears, my mom got it for something. Like, it was like, you wasn't getting a book bag out of Sears. You wouldn't get no clothes out of Sears. At least I don't remember getting any clothes out of Sears. And if you did, the clothes probably didn't last that long. What else? There was another anchor store called Belk's. Belk's is a regional store. I don't necessarily know if you can find Belk's outside of the Southeast. You may, but outside of South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, that's probably about all the places that you're going to find Belk stores. Maybe Tennessee, but it's a regional store. But it was also another anchor store. So you had Belk, you had Sears, and you had Belk, Sears, and JCPenney. There was also a store called Jeans West. Jeans West was the store. I can't really call it the hood store, but it was the store where all the kids got their kind of quote unquote fly gear from. I know people who used to go to Jeans West strictly just to get the airbrush shirts. And what I mean by that is, there was a time where kids would get a plain, you'd go and get a plain white t-shirt, and like, let's just say you had a girlfriend. Like, let's say I had a girlfriend. My girlfriend's name was, I don't know, let's say my girlfriend's name was Tanya. And I would have Tanya and I, if we were going to get matching t-shirts, we would go to Jeans West and we'd say, hey, make us a t-shirt that says Kyle loves Tanya and Tanya loves Kyle. So on my shirt, it would say Kyle loves Tanya. And it would be airbrushed on a white t-shirt and be different colors and everything. And on her shirt, it'd say Tanya loves Kyle. And the thing that people would do is those couples would purchase those shirts at Jeans West, get them made, custom made, and then wear them wherever.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sergeant Major of the Army retired Dan Daly.
And I'm Lieutenant General retired Leslie C. Smith.
And we're the hosts of Army Matters. We bring you stories from the battlefields to the barracks to the boardrooms.
We have stories of bravery, of leadership, friendship, family. Stories of how I kept Dan Daly out of trouble for all those years in the Pentagon.
Follow or subscribe to Army Matters in your podcast app right now.
Working across teams is tough, but Asana helps you handle it. That's because Asana is where humans and AI coordinate work together. AI can spot roadblocks and assign work in a snap, so everything and everyone stays on track. That's how work gets handled. That's Asana. Visit us at asana.com. That's ASANA.com.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
They went. So you see them in the mall, or you might see them at the store. You might see them at school, walking, holding hands. Kyle loves Tanya. Tanya loves Kyle. And that happened a lot. And I'm sure that there's some of you who are listening or watching right now on YouTube. Thank you for watching. Who actually had some airbrush t-shirts. Don't be ashamed. It's okay. It's okay to tell the truth. There was also record stores. There was a couple of record stores, but the record stores in the mall were always the chain were always the chain record stores. So it would be like, and I'll use this for an example, like a Sam Goody or something like that, or that type of thing. So it was never, mom and pop type record store in the mall. It was always a chain record. I can't remember the name of the chain. I'd have to call my boy Jay Fresh. And he probably wouldn't remember. His memory's bad, but yeah, in our hometown there were also record stores. Now, record stores, that was probably the store that I spent the most time in, because again, you could go in the record store and you couldn't listen to the music, but you could browse the catalog of everything that they had in there. And I remember spending 45 minutes, 50 minutes, sometimes an hour in a record store in the mall. That could easily be done. And then of course we had, I think maybe one toy store. I can't remember the name of the toy store, but that was always cool to walk in there and browse. But the reality was, by the time I could go to the mall and I was old enough to go to the mall by myself, I wasn't purchasing any toys. So I was too old for toys, right? And I think we all were. So going in a toy store was cool. If the only reason you had to go in a toy store back then in the 80s was to purchase a video game. Other than that, you really, at 15, 16 years old, you really had no business in a toy store. So at Magnolia Mall, my visits to the toy store was strictly just to look at video games. And then of course you had jewelry stores. Nobody cared about the jewelry stores. They were there, but nobody cared because nobody was buying jewelry. And I mean, this was real jewelry. So if you're looking at engagement rings or diamond tennis bracelets, yeah, you was hitting the jewelry store. But I mean, I'm 15. I'm not buying none of that stuff. So, and then of course, Magnolia Mall held us down with one of the best arcades ever. I love that arcade. It would literally be people who would get dropped off at 11, 12 o'clock, and they would play video games. Their parents would give them money, and they would play video games or watch people play video games for hours at a time. I know I have a friend who his mom dropped him off, and she gave him like $10 worth of money to play video games. And he blew the $10 in like an hour. And so by the time she got back home and got settled and was chilling, it was like an hour later, he's like, Mom, can you come pick me up? She was like, pick you up for what? And he was like, I don't have any more money. And she was like, I'm not driving back out to the mall to come pick you up. So, I mean, like, it could happen. Shout out to the homie Jay, my boy Jay, his parents. I remember his parents, we were in 8th grade, I think. His parents threw him a video game party at the arcade. So they actually gave us all money. And I think it was like maybe $7 worth of quarters or whatever, $7 worth of tokens. And we could play that with that $7. And listen, a game would be one token. So one token might be a quarter. So you literally could play for a long time. If you spaced it out right, you could play a long time. It wasn't like these games now where you got to put in, one game of Pac-Man cost $17. It wasn't like that. So we would play for hours and hours in the arcade. Some of the best arcade battles I've had on Pac-Man, Galaga, Pole Position. What was the other card joint? Outrun. Man, that arcade had just about any and every game that you would want. And this was, again, the pre-internet and technology era. So these were games that you literally had to play, and you would play and get good at. And it was always filled with kids. Always filled with kids. Listen, fellas, am I lying? It was always cute girls in the arcade, at least where we played at. At Magnolia Mall, there was always cute girls in the arcade. So we spent the bulk of our time at the arcade. It was a great time. I can't think of any better place of my childhood than to spend in Magnolia Mall's arcade. I spent so many hours there. I spent so much money there. And to be honest, I ain't have money like that. So, if my mom gave me, $10, that $10 had to last. And if you blew your $10, like let's say my allowance was $10, if you blew your allowance on that was it. You wasn't getting any more until the following week. So, shout out to the arcades, man. That was a lot of fun. Eclectic mentioned food court in his episode. I can't really say that we had a food court because we didn't. Of course, every mall nowadays has a food court, and even Magnolia Mall to this day has a food court. That being said, I had to try and think about my memories of food in that mall. There was a Sbarro pizza, Sbarro, I guess that's how you pronounce it. Sbarro's pizza, which was good, really good. And there was a Chick-fil-A. And Eclectic mentioned that, that might have been like the only Chick-fil-A in the area. There was a point in time in Florence where that Chick-fil-A in the mall was the only Chick-fil-A in like Florence County. Like that was the only place where you could get Chick-fil-A. And Chick-fil-A at that particular time, at least as I can recall, it was a novelty place to eat. It wasn't some place like you could find Chick-fil-A. Like you can go anywhere in the continental United States and pretty much find a Chick-fil-A right now, right? It wasn't like that in 85. And so if you went to the Magnolia Mall, that was where you were going to get Chick-fil-A. You weren't going to find Chick-fil-A outside of Magnolia Mall in Florence. And so there was a Chick-fil-A, there was a Sbarro, and there was a place called, what was it, Great American Cookie. And they had the best, I'm a huge fan of oatmeal raisin cookies. Great American Cookie in Florence's Magnolia Mall had the best oatmeal and raisin cookies on the planet. And, man, listen, and the cookies cost like 50 cents, and you would get this big ass cookie. And man, I would tear that cookie up, man. I love that cookie. And I'm not even a really big sweets guy, but that was my thing. So occasionally I would go to Chick-fil-A, but I'm more often than not, if I didn't spend all of my money at the arcade, I was definitely going to Great American Cookie. And like I said, at the arcade, man, we spent so much time the games we played, Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Space Invaders, Donkey Kong, Outrun. Just to name a few. Those were some great times. And like I said, we spent so much time there. We spent so much money there. And we had so many great memories. And again, it was the place for me, particularly in my adolescence in high school and definitely in college, where you wanted to meet girls because you were always going to see girls there. I remember going away to college my freshman year in 1991 at South Carolina State University, and then coming home, and I was like, I came home for like Thanksgiving or something like that, and you got Christmas break or whatever, or excuse me, Thanksgiving break, and at the day after Thanksgiving, everybody's going to the mall because of shopping, right? And so I remember distinctly, me and the homies linked up, and we was like, "Yo, we got to go to the mall because all of the women are going to be at the mall." And man, we weren't lying. All of the fine girls came home, and they were at the mall. So we were all at Magnolia Mall chilling. We was kicking it, and we met a few, and I'll leave it at that. But it was always great times. Always great times. And as you get older, things change, times change. And slowly but surely malls, become what they've become. As I got older, I realized that all the women weren't at the mall anymore. And everybody didn't go to the mall just to hang out and kick it. And then when I subsequently moved here to Atlanta in 1997, which is where I've lived since, I was exposed to, obviously being in a bigger city, you get bigger malls. So the popular mall here in Atlanta is Lenox Mall. Lenox Mall, when I first moved here, was like, that was the joint. Like Lenox Mall, it was the place where you might see Allen Iverson, or you might see Shaquille O'Neal, or you might see the Brat, or you might see, 5 members from Wu-Tang at any given time during the day, just on a random Tuesday, just walking around. And so like it was the place to be. And it was also like, me and my boys used to call Lenox, we used to call it the cash register, because there was nothing but dimes and quarters there. And then that changed over time because our taste changed over time, and malls slowly but surely stopped being the place where people would go to congregate and hang out. And over a period of time, I guess how I viewed malls changed. I mentioned before, and it's worth mentioning, I've gone to the Mall of America in Minneapolis. Beautiful place. I didn't really like malls that much at the time. And this was, I think my first visit there was like 2009. And I fell in love with that place. And it's like 5 stories, and they've got like a huge amusement park in the middle of the mall. I mean, a huge amusement park in the middle of the mall. Like, it's unbelievable. I would tell anybody, if you're a fan of malls, you got to go to the Mall of America at least one time in your lifetime. But like I said, the times change over a period of time, and you get older, and like now, I'm not bothered by crowds. I don't necessarily like crowds. And some days I have to be in the mood to go to a mall now. Like I think at the time of this recording, I've been in a mall once this year, and I probably won't go back in a mall again for the rest of the year. The days of Christmas shopping in the 80s was dope because like everything shut down, and you had Black Friday, so you had the people out on Thanksgiving. The day after Thanksgiving was crazy in the 80s, but now not so much, because people don't really go to the malls like that after Thanksgiving, because some places, to be honest, don't even close. So, you can just shop online, or you can go to the mall whenever you want. And there's no scarcity and stuff. Like, there's nothing running out. Like, whatever you want from the mall, you can get it online, and you can probably get it quicker. Now when it comes to clothes, when I go buy clothes, like if I wanted to go buy a pair of jeans, I got to go to the mall for that. I'm not one of those people that are going to order jeans off of some website. I'm just not, because I want to try my clothes on. T-shirts, I'll order offline. I can't tell you the last time that I went into a store and bought a t-shirt. Dress shirts, kind of the same. Like, I know my size, so I'll go, but it's the places that I go are never at the mall. So, times have changed, and it's not the 80s anymore, but listen, the 80s was a dope era. It was an incredible era for the mall. The mall life was fun. We had good times at the arcade. We had access to good food, and food was really good. We could get airbrushed t-shirts if we wanted. We spent a lot of time there. And in my case, I spent quite a bit of money, not a lot of money, relatively speaking, but it was a part of the childhood, and it was a part of the 80s. And if you grew up in that era, you really, really enjoyed it. And if you didn't, you just kind of missed it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We drop new episodes every Thursday and every Sunday. Don't forget about our new baby. We have a new baby. It's called the Rap Soul Podcast. It is my music podcast. It is the best music podcast that you've never heard. So you need to check it out, where we talk about music and artists from the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s when it comes to rap, soul, hip hop, and R&B. So you got to check it out. You can find the Rap Soul Podcast wherever you're listening or watching this episode as well. If you're on social media, hit us up 12 Kyle Podcast across the board, or you can hit us up Rap Soul Podcast across the board as well. If you'd like to contribute to the podcast financially, hit us up $TWELVEKYLE. Also, we have merch. If you're interested in purchasing some merch, go to the description box, click the link that says merch, and you can get 12 Kyle Podcast t-shirts, hoodies, as well as coffee mugs. We got it for the low. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Again, this has been another edition of the 12 Kyle Podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000. Cheers.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you work in university maintenance, Grainger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Grainger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, visit Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.